Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So inshallah, let's go to the Muqaddimah of the book, inshallah. Again, we're not going to go very deep, it's simple, basic stuff so we get an idea of what's going on. So we have the Muqaddimah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. If you can't translate this, you shouldn't read this lesson. Amma ba'd. Ta'rif usul al-fiqh. So the first thing he mentions is the definition of usul al-fiqh. For usul al-fiqh, ilmun yubhathu فيه عن القواعد التي يتوصل بها إلى استنباط الأحكام العلمية عملية عن الأدلة الشرعية. So he says أصول الفقه is a knowledge, the science, in which يبحث, this is the, you can say here, these قواعد are discussed. So أصول الفقه is a knowledge, a science in which these rules are discussed. Which rules are discussed? Those rules يتوصل بها, reach, the tawassul is reach, conclude. Yes? So, and then istinbat, what's istinbat mean? Same as, what's istinbat? What does it mean? Huh? To derive. And ahkam. Now you have two types of ahkam. So initially, fiqh was a very broad term. So when the Prophet ﷺ made dua for Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu ta'ala, he said, Allahumma فقهه في الدين والله make him a mufti, not qari, not mufassir. The word fiqh wasn't used as that. Fiqh means what? Faqaha yafqahu means what? Understand. To understand. So when you say fiqh means what? To understand the deen. That means everything. Tafsir, hadith, fiqh, aqidah, everything. Yes? Then after, as time went on, it each became a separate branch. So when we say fiqh nowadays, is basically ahkam amaliyah basically. So Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, there's a book called Al-Fiqh al-Akbar. There's a khilaf whether Imam Abu Hanifa's book or not. But Al-Fiqh al-Akbar. So Fiqh al-Akbar means the biggest fiqh. What's the biggest fiqh? The biggest understanding is aqidah. So that's like, but in aqidah you have to do anything. Is there any amal involved in aqidah? It's just an amal of the qalb. So when we say ahkam al-amaliyah, what does it mean here? Like, you have to pray salah, do wudu, buying, selling, talaq, nikah, itaq, all of those things. So it's ahkam al-amaliyah. So it's a practical ruling. So rulings that deal with amal. You understand? Not to do with aqaid. That's basically what he's trying to say here. So are those rulings by which you are able to derive what? Rulings. Rulings pertaining to fiqh. So you can say fiqh if you want. But fiqh in our modern sense, not the original sense. You understand? So usul al-fiqh are those qawaid in which those qawaid are discussed, via which you can do istinbat and derive ahkam. What kind of ahkam? Which are pertain to action. Where do you derive them from? The adillah shar'iyah, the shari'i evidences. And we've done our abridge already. There are many evidence which are from the shari'i evidences, but four are musallam, four are what? Unanimous. Quran, sunnah, ijma' and qiyas. And the other ones istishab and, what was it? Istishab, saddu zari'ah, shara'i ma qablana, all those are mukhtalaf fi. So this he only mentioned these four in this primer. Okay? Then we have what are the adillah shari'iyah? Wal adillatu shari'iyah hiya al-kitabu wal sunnatu wal ijma' wal qiyas. And again, we've taught the first steps in understanding usul al-fiqh already, so these are basics already been covered before. Wa mawdu'uhu. So when we study something, you call it mabadul ashara. Like what's the fun, what's the benefit, who initiated the fun, who started it off, all of this kind of stuff. So we only mentioned a few of them. What's the purpose of studying this? So if you know the purpose, the topic, it makes things easier. But all this are already included anyways. We kind of understood it intuitively. What's the topic of usul al-fiqh? Al-adillatu shari'iyah. The shari'i dalil. The Quran, the sunnah, qiyas and ijma'. Not from any aspect. Because Quran, do we do tajweed in usul al-fiqh? Because that's not Quran min haythu tilawa. We do a sunnah, we look at the riwayat, well, kind of, but like say for example, the lugh of the Quran, that's different. We look at the adillah shari'iyah, which aspect? From the aspect that how it leads us to ahkam al-amaliyah basically. So we study the usul al-shari'iyah, the dalal shari'iyah, from this aspect, or from the aspect of it leading to ahkam al-amaliyah. That's how we study the ijma', qiyas, sunnah and kitabullah. The ghaya, why? Because it's a harder book. So if you have a harder book, then we can get harder exams. Harder exams give me more enjoyment and give me harder exams for failing you. That's the ghaya of this book, no? No, Muhammad? What's the ghaya? The ghaya is what? Ma'rifatu al-ahkam al-amaliyah. Is to understand the ahkam amaliya, meaning the ahkam pertaining to actions from the sources. Number one. Number two is tamakkun min istinbatiha minha. And tamakkun means have the ability. Ability is to have the ability to derive the ahkam amaliya from the sources. But pause here. One thing we need to understand. In all the standard books of the Hanafi books, Hanafi Usulif books that we do in our madaris, whether it's Usul Shashi, Nur Anwar, Husami, if you come into Usul Fiqh thinking that we're primarily going to focus on the Quran and derive it from the Quran only, like for example, okay, we're going to study Quranic verses and derive from the Quranic verses. We're going to study Sunnah, derive from the Sunnah. That is one part of this. But you don't mention it in the definition. But within Usul al-Fiqh, there are a lot of rules not deriving from the Quran and Sunnah. So it's not a definition, and it kind of confuses you, throws you off a bit. It's not only that, it's also understanding how do we come to Masail. So for example, so we don't only discuss Quran, Sunnah, Kitabullah, Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' and Qiyas. We also discuss, for example, what if a person says this to his wife, will talaq take place or not? Based on what rule? If a person says this to a slave, will he be free or not? Based on this principle. So there are many furu, many fiqhi juz'iyat in usul al-fiqh. In usul al-shashi, usul al-shashi got many of them. Usul al-shashi, in Nur Anwar, in Manar, in Husami. They're not just Quran derived from the Quran, Sunnah derived from the Sunnah. Those are actually sometimes you can say in a minority. So a lot of the time we study those rules where we can understand how the fuqaha have derived ruling, whether it's from the Quran directly or whether it's interpreting sayings or actions which lead to fiqhi rulings. Do you understand? So when you see fiqhi masail coming in here, which are not derived from, it's basically don't get thrown off. Are you following? So for example, we'll discuss the word aw. Right? So in the Quran, for example, how is the word aw in the Quran used? La tuti' minhum athiman aw kafura. So it's aw is for in an amr, in a nahi, aw means don't do any of them. Don't talk to him or talk to him. What does that mean?
Either.
Can I talk to one of them or can't I talk to both of them?
Either.
Can't talk to both, because when aw comes in nahi has this meaning. So they will have, for example, now from the Quran verse, and they will also have based on this in fiqh you have this masala, this masala, this masala, this masala, this masala, which are all fiqh masail. You understand? It's not to do with Quran and Sunnah, like directly. You understand? So even though the definition is what we learn to derive rulings from the Quran and Sunnah, we also have multiple situations, scenarios where we do what? Where we is analyzing the same rules that we use here in fiqh without direct from the Quran and Sunnah. You understand? We're not going to go through the whole Quran and derive from every ayah. So don't look for that in here. Or in Surah Shashi or Nur Anwar. You understand? It's basically how the book, how Quduri works, how the fiqh works. Whether it's directly from the Quran istidlal or understanding Kalamun Nas. What will make bayt sahih, what will make bayt incorrect, what will make bayt batil, what will make bayt fasid, what will make talaq take place, what will make talaq mu'allaq, etc. etc. Understood? You got that point? Okay? So then he says here, وَلَمَّا كَانَتِ الْأَدِلَّةُ الشَّرْعِيَّةُ أَرْبَعٌ. Now that we know that there are 4 dalil shar'i, وَجَبَ أَن يُبْحَثَ عَنْهَا. We need to discuss the 4 of them. So then we're going to have 4 chapters, Kitabullah, سنة رسول الله إجماع قياس ليعلم به طريق تخريج الأحكام. So we can know or understand the method of deriving ruling from these sources. Understood? Yes? And then we're going to go on to, so basically we have done المقدمة, and then we discuss what is usul al-fiqh, the qawaid by which we learn to derive ahkam amaliyah, what's the mawdu', the dalil shar'iyya from an istinbat perspective, and the objective is to be able to derive rulings from the Quran and Sunnah, but also, as I said, not mentioned, with a little asterisk, is that also how to understand the rulings of fiqh based on the rules mentioned in here, even though it's not directly from the Quran, Sunnah, Ijma' and Qiyas. It's from the Lugha, etc. Understood? Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.